Hey, hello everybody. Welcome to the Gutencast. A little bit of technical issues here to get us started. We are live on both YouTube and Rumble, and to tell you the truth, I have no idea if it's working. Well, I know it's working on YouTube, but we got people watching on on Rumble as well. So we'll just kind of monitor that, and hopefully, yeah, okay. I think we're good. Hey, so started a little bit late, but trust me, it was worth it because we had enough time to get one of our guests here, Darby Kern, to start with us live, and we had Rob Cely ready to go with just a little bit of a tech hiccup there, which he will never repeat again. I'm sure, absolutely. Tonight's topic is one that interests all of us. I think. Pretty significantly. We we're all storytellers. We all have our own genres and that sort of thing. That's the way it always is. But it, the thing about a story is that it has the ability to move people in ways that like physically you can move somebody, right? You can push them and they'll fall over or whatever. But you there's something inside us that resonates with a story, with a narrative, with a twist of the plot, and as authors, all three of us, uh, we're playing with a fire in a way. It's something that's very, very special. We probably, maybe I should just speak for myself, take it for granted. The power that we're dealing with, it is a power that has been used for ill in the past, of course. And now these days, usually we use it just to make money. But you know, some of us, and I think the three of us that are you're going to be listening to tonight, see it as a bit of a higher calling. Um, but that also, I think, gives us our own little nuance and angles into how we perceive other stories, like the sci-fi shows that we're going to be talking about today. We can appreciate them not only as viewers, but also as creators. And so, who knows where this conversation will go um, once we get going. I should do the preliminaries. I'm not very good at this. My name's Anthony Horvath. I'm the host of the Gutencast. Gutenbookpress.com is the online book retail site. I did not have time to put links to all of our books in the descriptions, but you can follow the links that are in the description to find our books. So, without further ado, gentlemen, and I use that word lightly, how you doing?
Fair. I'm doing good.
Do-
I'm doing good.
Awesome. Okay,
Yep,
let me
doing
just
great.
do a.
Great to be here.
I hear you guys just fine, but let's start with you Darby.
Yeah.
For sound check purposes, why don't you do a little introduction to who you are and the kinds of stories you like to write?
Yeah, sure. My name is Darby Kern. I am an author, thanks to Anthony.
Mhm.
But I also write and produce audio dramas. My show, The Jake Muller Adventures, is our main
Mm.
focus right now, which is Christian audio drama, action driven, but it deals a lot with science fiction themes, aliens and UFOs, vampires, zombies, but in a real world sense. So it's
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's not
there's not
fantasy
really
land in
vampires
that
and zombies, but
context. Yeah. Okay, Rob, your turn.
My name's Rob Cely. I've probably been writing my as long as I can remember. Always enjoyed doing it. I'm an author, also a pastor at a Cherokee Presbyterian in Gilbert, South Carolina. And this is something that's always come second nature to me. And also, in any kind of speculative fiction, it seems like, I remember I took a writing class when I was in ninth grade, and The teacher there, she was really nice, and she liked me. She liked my work, but she kept wanting me to be more literary. She got me to join the literary magazine, and she wanted me to write stories about dramas in my family and what's going on with my dad and things like that. And I was like, who wants to read that? That's boring. I wanted to write stories about dragons and spaceships and laser beam fights and lightsabers and stuff like that. I'm like, no one wants to hear about me, kind of just waxing poetic about the angst of childhood. So, it's something that it's just been naturally drawn to as both a reader and a writer and watcher of movies. I like to think as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little bit more a little bit broader and to appreciate some of those dramas as well. But I mean, first and foremost, I find myself always drawn to that speculative side of the fiction narrative.
What I thought was funny was when I approached both of you about this topic. Both of you seemed unnaturally excited. And it reminds me of have you guys ever seen the show Psych?
Yeah, for sure.
Where
Yeah.
there's the one episode where the guy's like a closet nerd, and yeah, I mean I felt like that was kind of us in this.
I've heard it both ways.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I think we should get a baseline here, and I'll start as only fair. Which do you think is the best? And you can either take my model or kind of deviate from it. But here's what I'll say about it. So I think that from like the point of view of the imaginative innovation, I think I would have to give the edge to Star Wars, to the longevity and the commercial success and the continual innovation of storylines. I'd have to go with Star Trek. If I had to do one that I thought was the one that could like be our own world kind of thing, I'd have to go with Firefly. But I enjoy Stargate the most out of all of them. So that's I think as our baseline is where that's where I would start with. So Darby, how about you?
Well, I think we can close in prayer now, right? So no, that's that's a good way to describe it. I don't think I liked Stargate as much as you. I haven't seen as much of it though, to be fair. I remember going to the movie when it came out.
Oh, okay.
After a very long weekend, and I was really tired, and I fell asleep for part of it. But I remember enjoying it, thinking it was pretty clever and a nice action driven sci-fi flick. I don't know. Star Wars for me came out at a time I was 10 years old, pretty impressionable. Family life was a little difficult at that time, and it was a great escape for me. And to a certain degree, I'll always be grateful for that. Maybe
Right.
George Lucas didn't ruin my childhood, but he made parts of it better, and I enjoyed the storytelling. And it was probably the third or fourth time I watched it that I realized, hey, there is a interesting story here too. But you can just ride along with the action. Star Trek, when that was started before I was born, so so it was always there. In fact, I remember in kindergarten where they still let us play with hammer and nails. I kind of nailed 4 pieces of wood together and said it was the Enterprise, and I'd maybe seen 4 or 5 episodes of the show at that point. But it wasn't until I think I was in high school that I started really appreciating it for the depth that it had. Whether you agree with it or not is completely different. This is before Next Generation too. We only had 92 episodes, and at that point, I think 2 movies, and and I liked both of the movies. So to me, it became a grand story when it hit the big screen.
Okay.
But you go back now and you watch something like City on the Edge of Forever, and it holds up great. You watch The Trouble or Tribbles, and it's a problematic episode, but it's entertaining as heck, man. You can't take that away from it.
The
So,
Trouble with Tribbles. Yeah.
yeah. Um, Firefly, I've always enjoyed, and it's mainly because I think the writing was pretty clever and the characters were just goofy fun, and that's probably something that Nathan Fillion is going to just carry with him forever. He's just that guy, So whatever else he plays, he's still Captain Mel a lot of the time, and that is a-okay with me because I'll watch that show. So
yeah. All right, Rob, your turn.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to, like Darby, I haven't seen a whole lot of Stargate. I enjoyed the movie. Again, when it came out, it's been years ago. I'm not that familiar with the series. I'm going to start at the bottom though, and so I don't know what to say about Stargate, but I will say I put Star Trek at the bottom of what I know, and this might be the first grenade thrown into the room here, but I find Star Trek boring. I have had a hard time ever since I was a kid making it through an entire episode of the original. I've tried 2 or 3 times to watch the movie and I almost fall asleep at that long opening sequence where I think it takes you the first one.
Okay.
Where it takes, I think it takes like 10 minutes to see the Starship Enterprise. And I mean, if you're a Trekkie, I guess, you're loving every second of it, every single square inch of glittering chrome. But I'm like, can we do something finally? However, I adore Firefly. I love Firefly. I think that is one of the greatest travesties of television, that it was yanked way too soon. Especially the movie version, Serenity. Maybe one of my favorite science fiction movies of all time. And we maybe get into it a little later, but we actually use that movie in a series I teach sometimes in Sunday school about theology of the movies. I think it's got a great commentary about total depravity, which as a reform pastor, we love talking about that. But still, now Star Wars, I'm gonna have a qualifier. Star Wars at being number 1, and I'm talking just about the original trilogy. I think everything that came after Return of the Jedi was a hot mess, and that's about the nicest way that I can put it. Second trilogy, it ended up okay, but I think the presence of Jar Jar Binks soiled it forever in my mind. I mean, I don't know what George Lucas was smoking when he decided to put that creature up there. And then after that, I mean, the second trilogy, I watched one movie of it, and I was just talking to a friend about it today, and I thought what's the girl's name, like Raylan or something?
Ray. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way that she ends up mastering the Force effortlessly, and that just didn't sit well with me, and so I haven't touched any Star Wars after that. But that original trilogy, I think, is probably number 1 in the science fiction world. I think that's the gold standard, and it will be hard to match, and definitely maybe impossible to beat.
So I feel like I should tell you, Rob, you might not know this, but Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan is considered one of the best movies of all time, even to this day. So, like, you're uttering heresies, really.
Well, I've never gotten to Wrath of Khan because I never could get to the first one.
You haven't even seen Wrath of Khan?
I've never seen Wrath of Khan because I never saw the first one.
Wow, that is something else.
Yeah. Do I need to put that on my list of?
I know.
Can I watch Wrath of Khan without watching the first one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
100%.
So we do have people watching it and they are leaving us comments, and I'm assuming you guys are not monitoring them. So I will fill you in. And JB says the Star Wars prequels make more sense if Jar Jar is a Sith Lord, which is something that I thought maybe would come up. Um,
Didn't that happen in the Lego movie? Wasn't there a Lego Star Wars movie where
yeah,
Jar Jar became a Sith Lord? I think.
It could be. Yeah.
yeah, and just to answer OJ's question, we're talking about the original Wrath of Khan, Ricardo Montalban.
Montalban.
Is that his last name? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Montalban, Ricardo.
Okay. Yeah. So it's interesting that
in that movie.
yeah, right. It's interesting that all three of us had such high praise for Firefly. I'm glad that I put that on the list for us to talk about, because there really are a lot of things that could qualify as sci-fi. Like, I mean, Dune, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was never made into TV in any kind of way. But you know, a lot of people think that's the cat's meow as well. But you couldn't have a podcast where you talked about 50,000 sci-fi series. It felt like you had to narrow it down a little bit.
Yeah, just to
right.
keep control of it. But yeah, I mean, the X-Files is another show that I watch.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I feel like I should say, before we get too far on, that I think you guys should give Stargate another chance. It sounds like you saw the movie.
Okay.
And the movie was the movie, but in the series, the hard charging soldier was replaced with the guy from MacGyver.
Richard Dean Anderson.
Yeah, Richard Dean Anderson, and he brought a certain kind of levity and humor to it that at the right moments, and I think that you would enjoy the series more than the movie. I know. I will warn people. I warn people that the movie and the first episode have a couple of, shall we say, risque scenes, but after the pilot, it's safe. Oh yeah, now everyone's filling up the chats. We got Doctor Who, Babylon 5. Yeah, all right. Yeah.
So Babylon 5 is another. I love Babylon 5.
And I haven't seen that one.
It's. I think it's worth your time for sure. The first season, I'll say this. I think we have time, but the first season is hard to watch at times, but it lays the groundwork, the foundation for the whole series so well that you can't skip it.
All right.
You can skip Star Trek: The Motion Picture, though. I would say watch it, but watch the director's cut. But don't skip the first season of Babylon 5 if you're gonna watch it.
You sound like someone who's watching the chat.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm not. I can't even see it.
That's funny, because somebody just said Star Trek: The Motion Picture stinks. Skip it. So
I agree.
It's like you're pulling right from the brains of the audience. So
it's amazing though. It's like Apocalypse Now. If you find out what was going on when they were making it, and then you watch it, you say, "Holy cow! They got this movie out of that experience." And as a filmmaker, it's amazing. But look, if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. But
okay,
it's by the guy who made The Sound of Music. How bad could that be? Come on.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're down to we're kind of the running for our discussion. It sounds like it's going to be Star Wars, Star Trek, and Firefly. With Rob Cely a little bit less enthusiastic about Star Trek. But how much have you watched enough Star Trek to Rob to have an opinion about the meta narratives and stuff about it, or like did you really not watch it at all?
I mean, and I really love the concept, I mean, and I like, especially the original series. I have watched, I guess a fair amount of the original one, and part of my problem, I wasn't I had a family RTV, we didn't have cable, so growing up, I didn't
Sure.
have any exposure at all when it was having reruns on cable. But watching it, I mean, I love the concept, going out exploring. There's new worlds, interesting adventures to get in. It just is kind of like just a bit of lull in action for me. It seems to, and maybe that's the appeal a lot of people have of the show is the and I'm not opposed to the cerebral nature of stuff. It just kind of, I don't know, the pacing kind of goes slow, but I have seen enough to know I guess the whole arc of it. The different
Yeah.
people involved and personality of like Spock and Scotty and the Doctor and all those guys.
Yeah. So I think with Star Trek, one of the advantages of it when we like are viewing it from like all of these is that they had so many different variations and spin-offs that came out
Mhm.
after it that even if you did not like Star Trek, you might have liked Star Trek: The Next Generation, or some of the ones that the other ones as well. And it is interesting, I think, to go back and watch the original Star Trek, and then watch one of the spin-offs from the 1990s. The tempo of the whole episode is so different. The just everything about it, the way it structures is different. Like the whole, I don't even know how to say it. Like the flavor of the thing. How do you describe a flavor?
Right.
But it's clear that by the 1990s they figured out the formula, and it's not the 1960s formula that.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead, Darby.
It's interesting you say that by the 1990s, because the Next Generation started in 1987, and the first, like Babylon 5, the first season is barely watchable. Season 2 has some of the best episodes of the whole series, including one called The Measure of a Man, which is fantastic. But then in season 3, it really took off and got so much better. And I think part of that is because they got a head writer who really started knuckling down. And I'm going to say this too, and some people are going to scream heresy about it. That's around the time too that Gene Roddenberry was being phased out of Star Trek. Yeah. And I mean, the Great Bird of the Galaxy and all this nonsense. But when he was not involved with Star Trek, it was better. Sure, he created it, but other people ran with it and made it better. So,
yeah, I'm pretty sure that is considered a heresy in some circles, but you're safe here. You're safe here.
Okay.
So, since we all definitely have Firefly in common, we should spend a fair bit of time on that, I think. Let's start with you, Rob. What'd you like about Firefly?
Well, Firefly, I guess one of my ways I kind of describe it and what I love about it is almost like a Western in space. It kind of got that. It's got such a cowboy feel to it, and it's not it's not like Star Trek. They're all, if they're not scientists, they have this scientific bent, and it's just a bunch of scientists hanging around. But Firefly's not like that. You got regular people. You got your space cowboy. You got your prostitute. Just your gearheads and all that, and they're just like these regular people out there having these adventures, in space and stuff. And that's and that, I don't know, maybe it's just that more that romantic nature of the series as a whole. That's always the kind of science fiction I like. Just some good old romps adventures with some hyperdrives and laser beams thrown in there, for good measure.
Yeah. Okay, what about you, Darby?
I liked the blend of characters too. It's interesting because it starts with this. The pilot movie starts with this big battle scene, and the three main characters are soldiers. And then next time you see them, they're just washed up starship people. They're almost like the masterless samurai. They become Ronin, and then they have to always scrabble to make a living, and they just pick up this odd group of people that you think, how are these guys ever going to get along? And and then the two kids, the teenagers, she's on the run from this whatever galactic empire who's trying to catch her and exploit her or kill her or whatever. And I mean, you don't really know until the movie, but it's just, I mean, the characters have built-in story that you can just, it could have carried it for years. It's like you said, it's a travesty the show didn't keep going. But and plus the cast was great. I'm not a huge Joss Whedon fan. Some people are going to shoot me for that too, but I think he wrote some really fun characters and some fun dialogue, and he wrote a guy named Jane, because Jane's a boy's name. But it was just fun, watching these guys, and you're like, oh, I saw him in this movie. I remember him from this, and I remember her from this, and it just put it all in this blender that was so much fun to watch. A little sassy at times, but
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if does maybe the series have some some strength because it was kind of cut down in its prime. It didn't have the opportunity to get dragged out and just really like some old dog that should have put down years ago, where it ends up getting ruined for people. But we only got this little bit of it, and so it never had a chance to stagnate or to go wrong, or kind of like some others did.
Yeah, it created a mystique that way too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it's funny because there's comic books, there's novels, there's all kinds of other stuff that I haven't bothered indulging in because I need those actors when I'm thinking Firefly.
Right.
But, those stories are out there if you want to continue, and I think Joss Whedon worked on a lot of those stories, but there was a mystique that it was only 11 episodes, something like that. Was it even that many?
Yeah, I mean, maybe less than that. I thought it was like eight or nine, maybe, but
not many.
Grab my DVD and check.
Sure.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Your DVDs.
Yeah, I'm old.
Well, at least you didn't say VHS.
Right. So, while he's doing that, I mean, what you're really describing is the downfall of Star Wars. I mean, in retrospect, they should have just stopped with episodes 4, 5, and 6. That'd
been perfect.
I'm sure that they've made a ton of money, but from a point of view of, I don't know, author integrity or whatnot, it's just been. I'm like you. I think it was you who said that you watched 4 of them, and then, or you watched the first trilogy, 4, 5, and 6, and then you watched a couple of 1, 2, and 3, but then you really just stopped watching, right? Was that you who said that?
Yeah, I did that. I did watch one of that new trilogies. I guess it would be number 7. And that's when I stopped, and I kind of gave up on Star Wars for good at that point.
That's my story too. In fact, I did not watch 3. I watched 1 and 2, and Jar Jar Binks. Like, I know that he was. I know they diminished him, but the harm was already done. And then I think I came back for 7, thinking, well, we'll give him another shot. And then, I mean, it was okay. But it wasn't. It was not transformative, and I wasn't interested in watching it if it wasn't. So I didn't watch anything beyond that.
Yeah, and you know what? One of the worst things I found about episode 1, which may even been worse than Jar Jar Binks, and this kind of started a cascade where they tried to, I guess, expand the mythology or the whole mythos of the Force and what it can and can't do, and it didn't work for me. Like, when they had what were those particles that, like, the midichlorians that?
Yep. Midichlorians, yeah.
I mean, I was like, oh no, now you've just ruined the Force. You've kind of reduced it. It was kind of like this mystical experience, this kind of tapping into this flow in the universe. Now they've kind of reduced it to some particle accretion in your bloodstream, and that to me is, I mean, I didn't like that, and that was sort of turning the movie off for me. Besides Jar Jar too, of course.
Darby, how many episodes Firefly? Did you find it?
14.
Oh, 14. Okay, all right, it's more than I thought.
I don't have the DVDs, but I had to check my my Fandango movie collection.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Is that 14 with the movie or just
not with Serenity? No, it's
Okay.
14
Okay.
episodes plus Serenity,
Okay.
and that I know I have on Blu-ray probably.
All right.
So.
Yeah, and I think Firefly. One of the things that I liked about it was that there was a sense, and there is a sense in which, unlike I think the other ones, Star Trek and Stargate, um, the the world of Firefly could sort of manifest in our world and in some version in the future. You know, obviously they still invoke technologies that don't exist a little bit, but it's still basically our world. And I know the Star Trek is our world too, but I don't personally believe that it's conceivable that the Star Trek universe does actually exist. But the Firefly universe, I feel like could, and I like that.
Well, they're real. I think that's quality of the writing is that they are real characters. You know, they're not, um, you know, mankind perfected, which is never going to happen anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the ways Gene Roddenberry was just whacked out. You know, I remember reading a interview with Charlton Heston, and this got to be back in the early 80s maybe, where they were talking about his science fiction movies and the movie Omega Man, and somebody went after him, like some feminist went after him, like Gloria Steinem or something like that, because of the way the world is portrayed in that. And he said if she thinks that feminism is going to survive a world of 8 billion people, she's nuts. He was probably a little more diplomatic than that, but that's essentially what he said. And I started thinking about that. And it's like, yeah, and with Gene Roddenberry, what on earth are you seeing that makes you think that mankind is perfectible? And we're gonna lose racism. We're gonna lose, bigotries of every sort. And I mean, what are you seeing that?
Yeah,
nobody else is.
Yeah.
But,
well, and that theme was picked up nice in the Serenity movie. Because that was what I think ultimately was but that was the origin of those of the Reavers.
Yeah.
Right. There was this attempt to perfect mankind. They had that drug they were experimenting with that was going to make them all. It was going to make them all serene, and they kind of just ended up either laying down dying or, those. I'm sorry, spoilers here. The others turning mad, and going crazy, and it was that very attempt to try to perfect mankind, which ended up actually bringing out the worst in them. And I mean, that kind of. Did you ever see there was an old Leslie Nielsen movie called I think it was Out of the Silent Planet? No, that was a C.S. Lewis. It was Forbidden Planet.
Oh man,
Did y'all see that? Like I said, it was old. If you ever see Naked
Long.
Gun, it's hard to watch because you hear Leslie Nielsen's voice, and you're waiting for him to say something like, "Don't call me Shirley," but and it's a planet that's like completely this technological race that was completely empty. There's only this robot left, and they had supposedly perfected mankind by if I'm trying to remember correctly, open up his deepest consciousness and desire, and at the very end he explains their death by saying they forgot the id. They forgot there was this dark part, and then when they opened up whatever gate that was, all this darkness came out, and they ended up destroying themselves.
Oh.
So
the heart of man is deceitful and desperately wicked. So,
in the chat we have somebody who did say the Forbidden Planet is one of the best movies ever. So I have not ever heard of that one, so I guess I'll put that on the list.
Well, the only reason I've even found it is I think I saw it years ago. I had a VHS copy, and it was in like the bargain bin. And I mean, I love Sci-Fi. It was a good old Sci-Fi movie, and I saw Leslie Nielsen, and I'm a huge fan of Naked Gun. So I don't. We're not talking about the sequel right now. The new one with Liam Neeson, but Yeah, I found it in a bargain bin and I got it and I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic movie. So yeah, it
Mm.
was really good.
So we've kind of hinted at some of the worldview aspects of it, and the recent turn of talking about whether or not you can perfect man, is one of the it's a good example of how what you think about the world and religion and God and all other stuff can inform what you come up with as a creation. And
Mhm.
in this respect, I think that Star Wars can be complimented, I think, in not having any kind of well, let me rephrase that. The original Star Wars did not seem to have
There
any
you go.
agenda whatsoever, and I think that was part of its charm, personally. Star Trek always had a hint of that agenda every other episode, and sometimes three times in an episode, and that can make it hard to watch if you've got,
Hmm.
you know, it takes you. The whole premise of a lot of these shows is that you suspend your skepticism, right? And you can just sort of enter into it, but then they, buffet you with all these worldview and philosophical things where you're like, no, that
Hmm.
just no, that could never happen if you really know what a human is, for
Yeah.
example.
Right.
Um, Stargate, I think, uh, kind of threads that needle in its own way. I guess since you guys haven't really seen Stargate except for the movie, I can just say whatever I want, and no one's gonna be able to chastise me or whatnot. But
Inform
it
us.
doesn't
Hmm.
it doesn't have that agenda, but it's never preaching except for maybe a couple times. And there's a lot of seasons, so a couple times it's not that many in that context. But for the most part, it's just the you have a premise of you got your group of explorer/warriors who go through a gate, and they never know what they're going to find on the other side of the gate, and so it's kind of innocent and kind of in that
Hmm.
respect, and I liked that. But the one thing about Stargate, which if you saw the movie, and it sounds like you guys did at least, that there is the existence of the gods, right? and
Hmm.
and they are real. They're just not gods.
There's not. Yeah.
And I think I personally would not be surprised. We're going to go deep here real quick, I think. um I personally would not be surprised if there was actually at some point or even now an entity called Ra, you know um
Hmm.
and but we would of course call it a demon or something like that.
Right.
I'm of the mentality that um, the old stories often have kernels of truth to them that maybe we
Hmm.
can't necessarily ascertain the value of that truth, but I'm more likely to accept that people weren't just making up stuff whole cloth than
Yeah.
not. And so
Yeah.
Stargate
Well,
does a really good job of playing up the mythologies.
hmm Well, wasn't that Augustine's view too? If I remember correctly, is that these all those old gods, between Zeus and Ra and Osiris were demons that were parading as supernatural beings that we're doing it to deceive mankind. If I'm
I
not
feel like
mistaken, I think Augustine did hold to that.
Darby, you probably have the definitive answer on that, don't you?
I do not have the
Right.
definitive
Oh,
answer, but that sounds familiar to me.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, because your
Hmm.
your whole Jake Mueller series is based on that premise, right?
Well, essentially, it's about spiritual warfare in different forms, um, but I haven't gotten into the
Okay.
mythological figures yet.
Okay. All right.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
let's
Yet.
see that episode right now, shall we? But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean that would be my take on it as well. And maybe I did get it from Augustine, but that would have been a long time ago that I read his stuff. My daughters have read it more recently than me, so they might know. But
Or maybe Rob was just putting it in that way to make me seem less of a lunatic.
To me,
Oh, Augustine said that as well. So
I'm
you're
sure he
welcome.
did. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, uh, these ideas are planted in our head. They get into our subconscious, and then it becomes the societal subconscious. And we talk about Star Wars, and there are people out there, and we might think they're just a little bit wacky, but they're really believing in some Jedi religion kind of thing.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, we might think they're wacky, but that's the way these things start. Even George Lucas would probably say they're wacky, but they're still doing it because they see something they like. And I mean, Satan doesn't need to dress up in a red suit and a pointy tail and pitchfork. He's going to give you what you want.
All right.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. That might be reading too much into it, but yeah.
Well,
I think
Rob,
I think we all kind
follow
of
that, Rob. Go
well, I think we all kind of I mean, it's interesting how we will use our for lack of a better word, our mythology, our whole view of the world and how we think it created in order to try to explain the unexplainable, and it, I was just thinking, as I was thinking about this topic, that like the idea of aliens, and I've seen like looked up at the sky sometimes and seen, something flying around that it didn't look like a plane. It didn't behave like one. I don't
Mhm.
necessarily, I'm not saying it was an alien. But I've just looked, I'm like, oh, I wonder what that is, and in earlier generations, they would see that unexplainable thing and they would interpret it in terms of their theological worldview and say, oh, that must be an angel. There's some divine celestial being that's flying along in the celestial sphere.
Mhm.
Whereas the way we would interpret it is, it's got to be an alien. It's got to be some kind of craft from another planet representing some higher technology, and it's just, I mean, do we have any more evidence for that weird light being an angel or a UFO? I mean, we don't. But all we know is it's something flying around that we don't know what it is. Even the ones that the government's released recently, we don't know what it is. It's just something weird flying around, and we're just always going to interpret it in light of whatever our mythology is, and that's going to make sense to us. We don't know what it is. We have no proof. It could be an angel, could be a demon, could be a UFO. It could be something else. Could be a ghost. I don't know. It's just we don't know what it is. We just make it fit into whatever the prevailing mythology is.
Yeah, it's really strange because for Jake Muller, I did a lot of research on UFO lore and things like that. And in the 19th century, people saw a black shape in the sky, and it was more rounded, and that's what they saw. And then something happened, and it was kind of led by a literary reference, and I don't remember what it was, but all of a sudden everything became a cigar shaped thing they saw in the sky. And then in the early 20th century, the idea of a saucer came out, and I don't know if that was H.G. Wells or not, but there was a saucer like thing with the legs. And then after that, people started seeing the saucers, and they changed shape kind of based on what is popular in popular culture, for want of a better term,
and imagination.
Yeah. And I mean, I have definite ideas about it, and I think a lot of it is demonic. Some of it is just misrepresented, but I think there is a demonic element to some of it. My personal opinions, I'm not pushing that on either you guys or anybody listening or watching or anything, but it's funny how those things change to adapt to the cultural zeitgeist or mindset of this stuff.
Right.
So
did the technology seem to change as well? Because I mean, I remember seeing these illustrations of flying saucers in the 50s, and they looked, I mean, very 50s like,
yeah.
And then as time progressed, then the spaceships got sleeker, and they got smoother. They could do more things, and it's like they updated along with our perception of them. Is that what's kind of?
Yeah,
I mean,
from what I read,
have you seen that in the change?
Yeah, and in the early '80s, things started looking like stealth bombers.
Right.
Figure that, huh?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think people started seeing some testing aircraft that was out there that the government wasn't quite ready to let us know about, and and it got picked up on, and then all of a sudden you see that everywhere. So
right,
I don't know. I don't have a definitive explanation.
In my mind's eye, I keep seeing the moonlander, our moonlander, and thinking, wow, that looks so amateurish. That looks like a 1950s production, doesn't it?
It does. But that space shuttle was gold, man. That was gold.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So let's go back to Star Wars just a little bit. My take is that we all saw Star Wars at about the same time, right around when we were 10, 11, or 12. So it was, I remember I was a little bit too young for the actual hype. Like I didn't stand in line to watch Star Wars, but I stood in line for Jedi for sure. When they had the lines out the block or whatnot, and that there was so much hype about it, and maybe as an adult that the Jedi thing would have been a letdown, but at the time it was like, yeah, this is pretty good stuff. I didn't know that the Enochs were supposed to be Wookiees. I was too young to be offended by that. I'm offended by it now. I mean, that's not exactly very realistic, I think. But at any rate, it's formed a it's like part of my my personal narrative, my own story, and the narrative that built me. Star Wars occupies that place in a way that none of those other series does, or I think even could. And there's a nostalgia to it that I think makes me so sad that it was ruined. There's almost not. I don't want to say grief, because that's would make me seem pathetic, but sad anyway.
Let me throw something out there, and Robert, you said this kind of too, that episode 1, Jar Jar Binks was just too much, and I don't disagree. I didn't like Jar Jar Binks at all, and I was so happy that he didn't have a single line in Revenge of the Sith. And you only saw him for a few seconds towards the end,
right?
But I'll say this first: he's essentially Gollum of the Star Wars movies, because he does something that is absolutely the galaxy turns on it.
Yeah.
But the thing to remember, we're talking about watching these movies when we were young, and in my case 10 years old, and it was in some ways, not spiritually, but in some ways, it was a life-changing event. Summer '77, and waiting, and I did wait in line, and it paid off. I thought it was worth it. My parents would think I'm crazy, but I thought it was worth it. But it really hit me at the level I was at as a 10-year-old, and then 13 and 16 for the next two movies, and 16 isn't too old to really dig into Star Wars in a big way. But then all these years pass, and we go back to episode 1. George Lucas is back in control in a big way, and he writes another movie and directs another movie and releases it to the universe. and it's a movie for 10-year-olds. 10-year-olds loved Jar Jar.
Yep.
We were beyond that. My big memory of seeing episode 1 at a midnight showing on whatever it was, May 21st, whatever, was a guy sitting behind us in the theater when Anakin runs back to his mother before he leaves. Oh, more spoilers. He runs back to his mother, before he leaves, and this guy behind me says, "Oh, enough of this domestic expletive." And I just thought, okay, someone who doesn't understand character or story arcs and stuff like that, but okay, whatever. I'll forgive him that. Then later in the movie, we have this epic lightsaber duel, with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and Darth Maul, and Qui-Gon gets killed, and you're like, oh no, this guy was great. I liked him. Liam Neeson, he's never going to be Frank Drebin now, but he dies. Sorry. He dies, and Obi-Wan goes, finishes the fight and cuts Darth Maul in half, just completely whacks him in half, and he goes falling down in 2 parts. And the guy behind me says, "Finally." He's been waiting for a Quentin Tarantino movie in a George Lucas movie. And I just thought, okay, you weren't around in 77. You didn't, don't remember the arm lying on the floor being one of the most grisly things you'd ever seen, as a 10-year-old. But, the movies, it's like he didn't want to update it. And he didn't want to go to a PG-13 movie until it was time for Anakin to start on fire,
Yeah.
And, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is it good storytelling or bad storytelling? I don't know, but he's making movies for the 13-year-olds or the 10-year-olds again.
Yeah.
Which they definitely did not do in the sequel trilogy, which I think from the very beginning, JJ blew it, just he punked out Luke Skywalker so bad that when the next writer-director came along, there was nothing he could do to redeem this guy. Nothing. So he had to, okay, you haven't seen it, but Luke had to sacrifice it himself, and with the nature of the Force, it didn't matter. He could have come back, but they chose not to.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. It's a series for kids.
I think George Lucas is actually on record saying something to that effect. I don't know if you are aware of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now with the TV series that they're doing, the several TV series, and I haven't seen all of them. I've watched some of them. Some of them I've enjoyed, and some of them I thought just stunk on hot ice. But, they are not following the Lucas idea for kids. And we look at it, like you said, nostalgically. It is a very nostalgic thing for us.
Well, I think you can have something for kids, I think, without it being stupid, though.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, there are parts of Star Wars I look at. I mean, I remember when we went to go see when they re-released it. It showed in theaters again, the original Star Wars, and we went to see it. And there was that scene where Luke is complaining, and he goes, "I wanted to go to Tachi Station to get more power converters," and the whole theater started laughing. It's like we didn't remember what a whiny little baby Luke was.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I mean, it's okay to have, I know a lot of great kids movies that are a little bit childish. The main character acts childish. They'll do some, crazy kid things. I love kids movies. I love children's literature, but I think it could also be, I don't like all kids literature. Some of it's dumb.
A lot of it,
yeah, a lot of it is now. Well, some of it I look back, like I was a huge He-Man fan as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
I tried to watch He-Man episodes again, and they're terrible. I mean, they're just awful. I couldn't sit through a single half-hour episode, but I can watch Star Wars again.
Yeah.
I can watch Chronicles of Narnia still. I can watch some of the Justice League. I can still watch some of those. I don't know. It's some of it seemed a little silly to me. But that's me.
I've never been in the presence
but
of a person who mounted a defense of Jar Jar Binks. I mean, Darby, you're a real man. I mean,
It's it's not a defense of Jar Jar because I would have liked to have seen him die and violently, but it's more a defense of the storytelling method.
okay.
George Lucas and I wouldn't see eye to eye on anything, but I think that you know I think there's something laudable about telling stories for young people to enjoy that are I, I don't want to say moral, but will at least start a conversation about values and virtues, maybe.
Mhm.
Because Anakin starts virtuous, and then he's a woman brings him down. Um, sorry,
That's just the way
more
it is with all
spoilers.
of us.
Um,
Yeah.
but there's manipulations and things going on, and I don't like seeing the virtuous person turn evil. But then when you put it all together, he's redeemed in Return of the Jedi, which is always a pretty cool moment.
Hmm. Yeah.
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 well, if all right, you defended Jar Jar, I'm going to defend a part of Star Wars that other people usually don't defend either, and I'm going to risk here being the unpopular opinion again in the room. When I will say, my favorite of the trilogy, the original trilogy, was actually Return of the Jedi.
Really?
That was my favorite movie.
Huh.
Not that I don't like Empire, but I know everybody's Empire, and yes, some of the most iconic moments
Yeah.
are in Empire, and probably some of my favorite scenes are in Empire. But as a whole movie, I loved Return of the Jedi,
I agree.
and maybe for some of the same reasons that it's a good kids movie. I like the hero finally overcoming. I like that final epic lightsaber battle between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. And I even think it's kind of cool that the Ewoks ended up unseating the Empire, in the end. Is it any more realistic than they did it than Wookiees? I mean, they're both make believe creatures in suits.
Right.
It would have been harder for the Ewoks to do it, obviously, but when I saw it for the first time, it didn't offend me. It didn't bother me. I never thought about it until other people, were offended for me, and then I thought I had to be offended because they were
Mhm.
too. I wanted to, be a sophisticated consumer of Star Wars, but I didn't. It didn't bother me. I think, the Emperor, his lightning shooting out of his hands. When I saw that
Yeah.
movie for the first time, I thought that was one of the coolest things I had ever seen
Hmm.
with that lightning. And
Mhm.
even though the Emperor's a bad guy, I walked out of there wishing I could shoot lightning out of my fingers like he did.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it was a great. I think it was a perfect ending to the trilogy. I mean, it was. I think everything that George Lucas had wanted it to be. It's that epic journey of the hero. He stuck to the, to the to the I guess all the principles you get like from Joseph Campbell and here with 1,000 Faces that I believe was a big influence on him.
Mhm.
And I just thought it was a perfect ending to it, and I love Return of the Jedi, and I can't imagine it being a better way to cap off the trilogy.
And I think visually, it's the most spectacular thing. You got these
Mhm.
huge battles in Revenge of the Sith, but it's all done in a computer. In Jedi, they did with models
Yeah.
and
Right.
Mhm.
in a really um, primitive way of doing it, and it still looks fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a good
Yeah.
movie. I love it
Yeah.
too.
So apparently I said Enox before, not Ewoks.
Instead
I've
of
been
Ewoks.
I've
Mhm.
been called out on the chat, and I feel ashamed. So
And yet we knew what you were talking about.
yeah, I don't even remember saying it. It's interesting.
Ewoks don't walk with God.
That's
No,
true. Yeah.
no, they do not. So so I think well, I guess we don't all agree on Jar Jar Binks, but so Darby, what do you
I've
think
already
about the
said I wanted
theory?
him to die violently. Come
Yeah, yeah,
on.
all right. Do you think he's there's the conspiracy that's been out for a while, and I haven't tracked it down. I don't know what the current state is, that he was actually a Sith Lord. Have you have you heard that before?
I've heard it. I don't think George Lucas would go there for a second.
No, okay,
I just don't.
all right.
Well,
He made it
that
look-
sounds like this game, like my kids come up with gaming theory all the time. A bunch of guys with too much time on their hands want to just kind of read into the movies and the symbolism of it. But
But if he was a Sith Lord, I would actually enjoy the character. Like it would make.
Oh, I
To
know.
me, it would
Okay,
make a
okay.
whole
I
lot
got
more
you. Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Everything would. It would just be perfect then. It'd be like, oh, well, of course, that's
Yeah.
what a evil guy would do to try to fit in with the other ones. Play
when
the
you
idiot.
watch it again, just assume he is.
So I mean, I guess that was the plan all along to bring about the end of the Republic.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So,
He did.
have you guys? I've heard good things about the Mandalorian. Have you guys watched that one?
I have.
Is that worth watching?
Of the series that I've seen, it's my favorite.
Okay.
I will not beat around the bush. I'm a Gina Carano fan too. So when she was in the first couple of seasons, I thought her character was great. There's a nice. I mean, the character Grogu, who everyone calls Baby Yoda, is a really interesting. He's a little more than a MacGuffin for the show, but that's sort of what he is because he latches onto this Mandalorian guy, and you learn a little bit more about who Boba Fett was, what he was all about, and the story's cohesive and the action is pretty good. So, yeah, I think there's like maybe 24 episodes of it. It's worth it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel
the production value is really good.
So one of the interesting things, as I was thinking about tonight's episode was like how these shows were introduced to the world. So Star Wars, of course, was introduced as movies. Star Trek, I believe, was always the TV shows. The movies came a lot later, if I understand it. Stargate was the movie first. Firefly was the episodes first, and I think I have that right. And I feel like what happened to the Star Wars franchise is Disney got a hold of it, and they wanted the television revenue. They wanted that angle, and so they started thinking more about standalone narratives that were excellent, I guess we'll say, in themselves, and we're instead planning on ways of creating these offshoots, and of course Disney had its own worldview mentality issue, like the agendas that they wanted to do, which ended up polluting it too. But I haven't looked into it, but like, what do you think about that hypothesis that they sort of torpedoed their movie franchise in order to open up a television franchise?
I don't think it's a very wise business strategy if they did that intentionally. I mean, they paid over $4 billion for Lucasfilm and all its property, and to torpedo any of that is
okay. So maybe not. Maybe that's not the right word. The word for it, because obviously, they want to make money, but I mean, like, it seems like. Let me back up. Let me. I'll put the question to you guys this way. Like from the point of view of a lot of people, the later Star Wars movies were crap, but they never made any adjustments. Most of the time, they doubled down on their crap. So either they like had a bigger play, or they didn't, and the money was not really relevant, or they thought they were actually paving their way for greater future revenue. I mean, that's kind of, I don't know. I guess That's a kind of a
Well, are,
fraction.
are you talking about some of the do you mean like some of the agendas that they started pushing, or are you talking about just the quality of the shows and the movies as a whole?
So, I mean, maybe a little bit of both. Like,
A little bit of both.
episode
Okay.
7 with Ray. I mean, she's just such a MacGuffin, as you say. Well, you didn't call her that, but that's that's the word that we would call her, right? Um, it was more like, I mean, what did we really gain from that movie? All it did was set up other directions to take the franchise. That I can tell, it was not it was, as far as movies go, it was it could have been like a Marvel movie 5 movies after Endgame. I mean, why are you even still
Yeah.
making the movie? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's, the moment has passed, but they do it, and Marvel did it because they have a whole bunch of offshoots now, which no one watches it. I can tell, but with Loki or whatnot.
Well, I think what happened, and this one honestly I believe happened to Star Wars, and this happens to it's happened to Marvel, and I think it's just something endemic in the movie and the literary industry is that, I mean, right now who's running the show, even in these creative industries, is a bunch of businessmen. They're accountants, or they're salesmen, or they're guys who know a lot about the ins and outs and the finances of business. But I don't know if they care at all about movies in general, especially the Star Wars franchise. I think they look at it as a resource to be exploited, and they're going to try to exploit that as long as they can squeeze money out of it. And then when they can squeeze no more money out of it, they're going to go ahead and move on to the next whatever. Um, I remember reading, there was this when I read East of Eden by John Steinbeck, and there was, in the introduction, they said, well, their sales team got together to talk about East of Eden, and they read aloud this bit from Steinbeck's journal, and he was talking about it. And they said after they read this little bit about it, that the whole room was kind of quiet, like they sat there listening in awe. One person there thought someone was going to break out into tears. They felt like they were part of something big. And these were the salesmen. These were like the sales executives. And I think what that shows is that they might have been salesmen, but they liked books, and they liked stories, and they respected it. The guys that are running the show now, I don't think they care at all. They don't care about stories. If they were the one in the sales room talking about East of Eden, the first thing they'd say, like, okay, what about a sequel? Can we do
Right.
West of Eden? How about North of Eden and South of Eden? And if we can keep pushing it, we'll do north, south, North of Eden. And I mean, and that's why you get such stupid stuff. Is they're like, they just want to keep pushing it because their whole goal is solely, I mean, just solely to turn a profit, with no respect and no regard and no love for the franchise, for the story, and certainly not the fans.
And I think that's what I mean by the agenda part of it. Like with Ray, I mean, it was such an insipid, there's no controversy at all to having her, right? Like it wasn't
Right.
edgy in the slightest. And it was neutral, and it didn't offend anybody except for the people who loved the franchise, or grew up with it. And so that positioned them to exploit it even further. And I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it offended no one but the fan base. But
right, Darby.
But that's interesting because I'm the fan base since '77, and I thought Ray was the best part of the movie. And
well,
maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. But Ron, what's so interesting, or Rob, sorry, what's so interesting about what you were saying is George Lucas came out of this mindset in this period of time in the '60s when he went to USC and mixed up with people like Francis Coppola and all that, and their whole group of filmmakers that ended up at Zoetrope in San Francisco. Their whole idea was that we have to get away from the studios because the studios had just been sold off to conglomerates and soft drink companies and people who were not creative and knew nothing about it. So that's why you get to a point like even with The Godfather, which how many people will say, okay, this is one of the best top
Mm-hmm.
3 movies ever made, and Paramount didn't know what to do with it because Gulf and Western owned Paramount at the time, and it was run like an oil company. If something wasn't succeeding, they were going to sell it off. And the crazy thing is, Gulf and Western bought Paramount Studios for $400,000 in their whole catalog. And, I mean, can you imagine if a creative had $400,000 at that point? Paramount would, they wouldn't be relying on Star Trek television shows to survive right now. They wouldn't be on life support. Somebody would have said, "Hey, let's make movies that, are made by people who love this thing for people who love it." And that's what Lucas was doing with Star Wars. What he was trying to do, which is probably why every studio in town rejected it twice.
Right.
But nowadays, okay, Disney's got it. Disney is its own monster right now. We used to be a huge Disney family. A moral person can't be anymore because they're just, authorization with everything. But they own Marvel and they own, Star Wars now. Well, I mean, when you pay, like I said, $4 billion for Lucasfilm, you got to squeeze every penny out of that. You can.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. I mean, they can do the rides at Disney World and Disneyland, but that's not going to recoup that $4 million. But the thing that bothers me, I'm ranting. I'm getting warm. But the thing that bothers me is they make the movie Solo, about Han Solo as a young man, and I enjoyed it more than most people. Let me put it that way. I'm not all Star Wars is good Star Wars. It's there's a bunch that's junk, but I thought that movie was fine. But because of all the stories behind the scenes, before it came out, everybody was saying this movie's going to be a train wreck. And because the internet amplifies that stuff and makes it so loud, when the movie came out, everybody said, "Oh, this movie's a train wreck." And I'm watching it going, "Yeah, this is all right. I'm really liking this. It's not too bad." But is it episode 4? No, it's not. Is it a pretty good popcorn movie? Absolutely. Absolutely is. And Rogue One is the best Star Wars movie since Return of the Jedi, without doubt in my mind. So I'm curious what people are posting about that comment.
I haven't watched that one.
Let's hear, guys. Come on.
I haven't seen that one, so you're safe. You're safe on that.
Great movie.
What about you, Rob? Have you seen that one?
I've not seen Rogue One. Like I said, I gave up on the Star Wars franchise, and But if you recommend it, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah,
I do.
Along with Wrath of Khan. So
yeah. So okay. So I have another theory to run by you guys. Or not. I don't know. Theory. I have a feeling that you'll have an opinion on this though. One of the things that really rubs me raw these days is all the remakes of movies that I loved, and it's like these people can't come up with an original idea anymore, and they just keep rebooting. Well, not even a reboot. Almost suggests that you're going to actually do something with it. It's just like a remake, right? And I was thinking about the movie Goonies and how glad I was that they have not even tried to do that one, and how absolutely despairing I will be so depressed, because I think inevitably they will do it. But what do you think this says? This kind of goes back to Rob's statement about the businessmen, the salespeople are in charge of this. What does this say about the capacity for storytelling, either to transmit or receive in our society and today, that even the people with billions of dollars, they can't even come up with an original story anymore? Whoever wants to take that.
Well, I mean, first of all, I'd say the the biggest problem with businessmen being in charge of the creative industry is businessmen usually have absolutely no creativity whatsoever. I mean, there's a reason why your artists are starving. because they have no business acumen.
Right.
They're terrible with money, and businessmen are great with it, but they just they can't. They're awful with coming up with any kind of good ideas or writing good stories or literature. But think about the remakes just real quick. This is going to make your toes curl as it made mine it's about remakes. And I don't know if this is true. I'm hoping it's not true, but I've heard a rumor that they're going to be doing a sequel to, get this, Shawshank Redemption.
What?
So, and if there was ever a movie that begged not a sequel and did not touch it again,
Yeah.
it was Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
But see, you got this industry in charge, and these non-creative people. The only thing they know is looking at trends and numbers, and then unfortunately, a lot of times movies when they get made, even in Hollywood, even new ones, it's not like what you think. It doesn't start with the writer, which is where stories always need to start with the writer. The writer and his little moment of inspiration, his lightning in a bottle, comes up with this cool idea, and then starts to flesh it out. But a lot of times what ends up happening is, an actor is like, I like to do an action movie. Okay, well, we've got you, whoever, Janine Garofalo. Janine Garofalo wants to do action. I'm going to start shopping that around. I'm going to start looking for a good action movie for Janine Garofalo. And then, the other executives will get, well, what's big right now? I think zombies are big. Okay, well, let's do one about zombies. What else is big right now? Global warming. Okay, let's have a zombie movie that involves global warming. Right. We can have Janine Garofalo in the action. Well, then Janine says, well, you know what? I want to wear a yellow suit. All right, well, okay, we need a zombie movie that involves global warming, and Janine has to wear a yellow suit, right? And she wants a stun gun instead of and so the creative process is completely inverted. And so it's like writing a movie by committee. And you just got a bunch of accountants and businessmen, which are really great at running businesses and doing accounting, but they're terrible at writing movies. And so with that process inverted like that, and it's not driven by the artist, and it's not driven certainly by the writer, then I think they're going to have to always try to come up with ways to try to keep people into the audience. This is the only thing these guys in the boardroom knows is what sold yesterday. If this sold yesterday, well, we're going to just package it to make it sell tomorrow as well.
Yeah, that's why everything is derivative of something else too, and it's usually, and I think in that line, we're talking about Star Wars. Like I said, Lucas shopped it around to every studio, and they all rejected it. And finally, Alan Ladd Jr. read it, and he was like, "I don't understand this script at all." But George, you made American Graffiti.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you a chance because I believe in you. They don't invest in people anymore.
Right.
They don't invest in creative vision. They invest in a tried and true method. There's no risk taking at all. And now we've gotten to a point where movies don't cost $1 million or $2 million or even $10 million. They cost $100 million. And they cost, Marvel movies $200 million. I think the last James Bond movie was like 235. And I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm enjoying the movie, but where's the money?
Right.
Yeah.
The ones that cost, $3 million back in 1964, still the best James Bond movie.
Right. Yeah.
It's not money that solves the problems. It's creative people coming up with great ideas. You don't even have to say marketable or bankable ideas, just good ideas.
Just good ideas.
Yeah. And families want good family movies, and nobody wants to make them anymore because those money guys we're talking about are all like, it's old fashioned stuff. Who wants to watch that? And then something like Star Wars comes out, or even say Chronicles of Narnia 10, 20 years ago now, and it does very well because that's what people are looking for. I mean, the Passion of the Christ, everybody knew how it ended, and everybody, it was a religious movie, and it ends up making, what was it, $600 million or something?
Yeah.
How do you explain that? They can't explain it. They just want another one like it. So
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So the other side of this coin is the audience, has let them get away with it, right? So,
Yeah.
and I think that is something that has to be called out. People are fueling that by their responses to that by continuing to buy tickets to those things or whatnot. So there is responsibility on the side of the consumer of the art, also, I think.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, and it's taken a while. I think you said that people aren't watching the Marvel movies that much anymore. I mean, it might take a while to respond. It might be as long as they're pulling some sort of profit in.
Right.
Yeah.
They'll keep churning them out. I mean, I thought that I was amazed at how many Friday the 13th movies came out, but
Yeah.
and eventually
Fair
they started
point.
going like direct to video, and I'm like, well, I guess they got to be making something on it. But then I heard
Yeah.
about they can always insure the movie, and just even if it flops, they can still
Mm.
still recoup it. So I mean, we have a terrible business model, for these movies in the first place. The wrong people get compensated
Right.
um, the most
Yeah.
for these productions. Um, but I mean, I got no better answer than that.
Yeah. So the three of us are all in the starving artist category. So we
That's
might have
right.
a little,
Do I look like
what's
I'm
the
starving?
little bitter roots? What's the phrase I'm looking
Yeah,
for? Yeah.
maybe some sour grapes there,
There's
right?
Huh,
yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah,
like I
that's
knew it was
right.
there somewhere.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I wanted to bring out in this conversation, because I know that we all like to tell stories. And Rob, I want to get you on the hook for a
Mhm.
podcast talking about the theological origin of stories.
All
And
right.
probably
Yeah.
probably Darby wants to horn in on that too. Probably, I would
Hmm.
imagine he'd also be
I would
good.
listen to that one.
Yeah, he'd be good for it too. But Rob recently came out with a book, and I've been trying to promote it. So before I transition, Rob, what is that book? And just let people know what that is real quick.
Yeah, it's called the meta title is the Swordsman Chronicles. Hopefully, be one of many, and it's titled "The Curse of the Sleeping Sickness." And it's more of a urban fantasy than a science fiction. But in this world, there is this mysterious illness that starts striking at the children of America, and a mysterious man approaches a men's Bible study and claims to know what is causing this illness, and that it is a supernatural entity that goes deep into the highest echelons of the world's institutions, and it is
Mm.
men like them that are the only ones that are able to stop it. And so, I was inspired to write this by an actual Bible study that I'm a part of. That's called the Swordsman, and I think it was on one of our retreats that I came up with one of this idea. I was like, well, wouldn't it be really cool if we talk all about the spiritual warfare, if we had like some really an opportunity to actually do some hand to hand combat fight with evil in this world. And
Mhm.
I mean, it probably wouldn't be cool to really do it, but like
Yeah.
just like it wouldn't be really cool to fight a dragon in real life. But as
Yeah.
long as I'm just dreaming about it, no, it'd be kind of cool. So
Well, I
Yeah.
personally am looking forward to fighting with a bear, but I've heard that doesn't usually end well. But
hey, but it's better
Oh,
than meeting a man in the woods, right? I mean,
yeah,
come on.
that's right. Yeah, that's what I've heard too. So, so anyway, so but stories, like what's interesting about all of the series that we've talked about, um, the elements of what drives a reader or someone who, I don't want to even use the word consume, enjoys these stories. The
Hmm.
It doesn't matter what the setting is, whether it's in a galaxy far, far away, or if it's in, a local star system with like Firefly. You got
mhm.
your bravery, you've got courage, you've got your bad guy who's got to be brought down. You've got the internal conflicts. Um, and this is one reason why I'm not always necessarily offended so much by some of the worldview elements that I don't agree with that percolate in some of these, because when the chips are down, no matter what, they the creators always still have to work with the raw materials that God has made. And
Yeah.
if people are going to enjoy those stories, just because the setting or the backdrop or the scenery changes, the stories themselves are actually pretty similar across the board. You've got epic narration, your epic um, uh, traveling story, right? Like it's the journey. You've got these things that are just we're almost hardwired for. And to me, the sci-fi genre is just a way to pull that out and confront us with the fact that we're not actually made from mud that just got lucky.
Yeah.
There's no
Mhm.
no real. You can have evolution in your story, but there's no evolutionary justification for why people should resonate and be moved by story,
Right.
in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone
Yes.
wants to respond to
and
that.
Darby, do you want to go or?
No, that was my whole answer was yes.
Well, and what I find interesting is that sometimes, and I don't know, and I say this without knowing the religious perspective of all these writers out there, but you'll see, people who aren't necessarily religious, or at least not vocally religious, sometimes come up with some of the just richest theological messages,
Mm-hmm.
just unconsciously, because if you're writing a good story, there's in 9 times out of 10, or maybe even 99 times out of 100, there's going to be some good theology in there. I mean, there'll be a lot of bad theology too, but Star Wars doesn't seem like there is no mention of God at all. There's no mention of Christ, but there's some theological messages you have in there. Just the having a typical good versus evil kind of battle is in itself deeply theological, and it's something that resonates. I mean, in the deepest core of a person's being, especially men. And I think they're still the main consumer of science fiction today, especially. But there's just something deep, and I think, Tony, you were saying that it just completely innate with us.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're writing a good story, even by accident, you might end up writing great theology.
Darby,
Yeah.
surely you have something besides yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, when something like Star Wars, you're dealing with archetypes, and not fully fleshed characters, which was Harrison Ford's problem with the whole story too. But it resonates with us because it's familiar to us, and when Luke Skywalker's staring off at the two suns, we don't get to stare off at two suns, but you kind of get a feel like, you know what, where I'm at kind of sucks, and I'd like to get out of here, and there might be something better out there. And gee, I sure hope my parental figures don't have to die for me to see that. But it's the beginning of that journey, and everybody has to take two journeys in their life. One is spiritual, one is this mortal one, and where you end up is in both of them is pretty important. And I like that science fiction makes us ask ourselves those questions. To be honest, I'm not a huge sci-fi guy. I got burned out on it in college, which was when Next Generation was like the big show that we watched every week.
Mm-hmm.
But I got burned out on it because so much of it was secular and humanist, and I couldn't just for a while I couldn't read Heinlein and separate all that stuff. I couldn't read Asimov and separate all of it. I couldn't just enjoy it for the literature, or whatever literary value it had. I just kind of burned out on it, and there was no Star Wars movie for like 10 years at that point.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I just I wasn't enjoying it as much. But then when I got back into it, I realized that I had to make decisions, and it sort of, it didn't push me towards their answers, because I don't think Star Wars has answers. Star Trek definitely doesn't have answers. Stargate, I'm guessing, probably doesn't have answers. Firefly, I don't think has any answers,
Right.
but I enjoy the heck out of them. And
Yeah.
you separate that. You say, okay, this isn't gonna inform my journey, but it's going to inform the answers to the questions that I have. It's not going to answer them, but it's going to make me answer them. See, you forced me to answer, and I gave this long-winded, boring.
Yeah. No,
answer.
it was good. It was good. I'm
That
just
was
sad
spot on.
that more people don't. My impression is that the three of us are going to be a little bit more thoughtful on what we consume than a lot of people. So you said,
Mhm.
it makes people ask these questions, and yeah, I don't think they do though. you know, it's
Not
missed
everybody.
opportunities, but it'd be nice if they would. Certainly, it's an opportunity that they have that they wouldn't have otherwise, right? Like
Yeah.
the whole thing about like Star Trek and the idea that people can be perfected or will be perfected. I mean,
Mhm.
that's an obvious absurdity, but we just sort of the bulk of um, I'm eyeing my cat because my cat's eyeing me. Stay, you stay over there. Anyway, uh, yeah, this could get interesting. Um,
Data has a cat.
where was I going with that? Stay over there. The oh, like you would hope that somebody would see those things and say, um, yeah, that sounds nice, but the fact is we live in the real world, and people not only are not like that, but they never will be because of what a person is, and we can wrestle with that and then continue to suspend our disbelief and enjoy the show, and
Mhm.
but still have that theological takeaway that holds us back. And I think some people might go the other direction where they might sort of absorb the idea that yeah, maybe we could perfect
Mhm.
people if the government was more
Well, see,
powerful.
and this is exactly why my kids don't like to watch movies with me. A lot of times is I'm always, oh, this is no, look what they're doing, man. They're just trying to indoctrinate you with this message. Or every time in a movie, I hear something like, oh, all you have to do is believe in yourself. And
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just like, nah, come on. And my kids are like, Dad, it's just a movie. Just watch the movie. And I mean, sometimes they're right, but sometimes I'm right. And if you hear it enough, like just if you get kind of spoon fed enough that humanity is perfectible. I mean, and maybe you are walking away with this idea that maybe they're right. I mean, because people don't have. I mean, I'm convinced more and more that most people, when they think about their worldview, that they don't rationally and deliberately construct it and say, well, what is it I believe,
Hmm.
and then kind of weigh the evidence and decide for themselves. I think most people either just kind of absorb what the culture around themselves or just the people around them assume is what their assumption is. And so our movies are going to play a huge role in that because they're going to kind of just, I guess, pick up by osmosis, whatever worldview that's being expressed there. And I think in a subconscious way. And I mean, I've always believed that stories are very very important for that very reason, and you got to be careful about what kind of shows that you expose your kids to. Not that that means you can't expose them to, you can't let them have some freedom, but you gotta just let them know, oh, these values they're expressing are not the values of this family, or you got to be careful what they're expressing here is something that's dangerous, and at least give them the capacity to have a critical eye,
Hmm.
so they get to choose for themselves when they get fed junk. I'm not swallowing this at all. They can choose to eat it or spit it out.
Yeah. You're ready to have that conversation, though, which
Hmm.
most people use movies and television, books, whatever, as a babysitter.
Right.
And if you watch it with, it's just this thing with, well, when Harry Potter first started, and some of the Christian community was really getting bent out of shape about it. My niece wanted to read the books, and her mom had heard all the, this is evil stuff, but she said, you know what, let's read them together and we can talk about it. And
Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant. I think she's a
Yeah.
really smart lady. It's funny though, as we're talking about this, I got a fly just bothered me, but Star Trek has just shocked me twice. And once was in the original series where there's something about I don't remember the whole story or even which episode it was, but there was this ending coda to the episode where they were talking about these people that they were just dealing with, this race on this planet who worship the sun, and at the end they're on the bridge and they're having this conversation about these people who worship the sun, and Uhura, the communications officer, says, "No, you're not understanding this. They're not talking about worshiping a star up in the sky. They're talking about worshiping the Son of God." And when you know that the guy who created the show was like rabidly atheist, and even very secular humanist, I'm just sitting there watching it going, how did this get through?
Right.
Yeah.
And it did, and it's there. And the other example, we just watched it the other night, and it was the first episode of the new season of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, and which I think is a pretty good show. I'm just going to say that. But the captain's girlfriend is in the hospital part of the ship, and she's getting near to death, or she was near to death, and they're hoping she survives. And he walks into the room and he sees her laying on the bed. And I think it came up earlier that his father was a minister someplace, which shows you there's still religion in this version of Star Trek.
Yeah.
And he stops for a second, and he looks up and he goes, "Okay, you win." And then he gets down on his knee and he starts saying the Lord's Prayer.
Wow.
I was blown away by this whole thing. It wasn't one of those weepy moments like, "Oh, somebody believes." It wasn't like that. But it was like, all right, someone is still thinking about this. And he only gets, as far as "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name," and the girl wakes up. And you're, are we supposed to believe that it was some kind of miraculous thing, or she was okay and he was just wasting his time praying? I don't know. But I don't want to say I couldn't believe it, but I was a little surprised that they put it in there. So there are these kernels that they're willing to seed sometimes. And I don't know what their thinking is. And I'm not going to say, oh, there's got to be a believer on the writing staff. But I think sometimes they see the value in the Christian foundation.
Well, yeah, I think maybe they're just sometimes even just following the story. I mean, I always thought that the best writing that I do is if I just follow the story. And sometimes it takes me in places that will offend other Christians. Especially if it's the language or the behavior of one of the characters, which not necessarily I'm endorsing, but you just got to follow the story where the story goes, and sometimes the story will take you to those. I think if you follow the story faithfully, you will at the very least have kernels like that appearing, even if you're an atheist. Because one of the few Star Trek episodes I've seen, I actually saw that one you're talking about, and one of there's another one that they brought him up. I don't know. Do you remember the one where they were where they got stuck on this planet where a guy thought he was saying that he was Apollo, and this one, the big green hand and grabbed the Enterprise, and he
what a great effect.
And and there was one thing Captain Kirk said, and he says we've gotten rid of the idea of gods, but then he goes, one is just enough for us.
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay, I mean, he wasn't. It was kind of like that line in the Avengers. Do you remember when what I'm talking about with Captain America about Thor?
Yeah,
man, there's only one God, and I'm sure he doesn't dress like that.
Yeah,
I was like, yep, all right, there you go. Maybe just throwing a bone, but it was good.
Well, Joss Whedon in the commentary on that. Yeah, I'm a nerd. I'm sorry. Joss Whedon said that he said, I know people are going to drag me out on the carpet for writing that line, but from Captain America's era in the 1940s, that's what he would believe. So,
Yeah.
Right.
It was totally a character thing, but the character
Yeah.
was, hey, we believe in God.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's something that is of interest with my publishing endeavors is that it has attracted authors that have the viewpoints that we've just heard. For the most part, we're all like that. Where go away, cat.
Get him.
Jeez. I don't have my spray bottle close. Otherwise, yeah, I know this is a very professional studio right here. Sometimes your story requires something that would be considered grossly immoral, and you could in order for it to proceed, in order for it to come to an end, you could say oh, the bad guy came and he did bad things, and then the good guy came and then go all in on saying what the good guy did, but why was he bad? Right. What did he do to you? We can't talk about that because that would be evil. Well, I think it gives a distressing viewpoint on Christianity where the stories are God can save you from, well, we can't tell you.
Yeah.
It would be immoral for us to tell you about all the horrible things that God could save you from. No, I mean, at some point, if the story requires it, I don't believe in being gratuitous about it. But if the story requires it, how can you have a story of redemption if the person didn't do something he needs to be redeemed for? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, are people like that actually read their Bibles? I mean, because if you look at the book of Judges, I mean, there's a story in there that I find it's probably one of the most horrible stories I've ever read in my entire life. I mean, inside and outside of I mean, it was something that, I mean, if Stephen King wrote about it, people would have been in an uproar. I mean, it's an awful, awful story, and it can get fairly graphic, at least for the Bible, and but I mean, the whole theme of that late. Do I? The Levite's concubine, and but the whole theme of that book was, in that day there were no kings in Israel, and each man did what was right in his own eyes.
Right.
And so, other than just saying, like you were saying, Tony, other than just saying, hey, it was bad, okay, trust us, they did some bad stuff. You don't want to know, and you probably don't want to know after you read it. But
right.
I mean, they told the story,
Yeah.
because this is what it was like when if people living in a world where everybody's doing is right in their own eyes, this is what happens. And sometimes you just got to hear it in order to really realize what's going on.
Yeah, it's funny you brought that up, Tony, because you published my book Wounded Blue,
right?
That my agent dropped me over because of the the detective is he specializes in cases that have a sexual component to them, and she didn't like that,
and she dropped
it wasn't
you.
her. She publishes Amish romance, so
right.
Top with a pornography addiction didn't do it for her. But,
are those the bonnet rippers?
Yeah.
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 Well,
yeah.
I think we could definitely talk for quite a while, but we're well over the time that I usually have scheduled, and I want to be respectful of your time. So I do want to come back soon and talk about the theological origins of story, capital S. And Rob, you're definitely on my list for that. But I know, Darby, you've got some things to say. Rob, how would you feel if Darby rejoined us for that topic? Would that
be great? Be great. Be awesome.
What's he supposed to say? No? Come on.
I know, right? Yeah.
I'll tell you later.
He's on the spot.
We'll talk later.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah, no, we'll see if the schedule works out.
Okay.
I think it would be a good one because it's almost mystical. Ah, like I don't know if you've heard the people say authors describe. I think maybe J.K. Rowling described it. Some of her what she learned from or some of inspiration for some of the Harry Potter stuff was that it almost came as like a download, and like
Mm-hmm.
it's just like bam. And I was face to face with a Christian once who heard that and was horrified. Like, oh, well, it must be
Yeah.
demonic then for that reason. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm standing there looking at her like, I guess she doesn't want to know how I came up with my birth pains. Because
Mm-hmm.
like, just like in that case, the whole premise of the whole series came. I was driving down the road in a semi, and like that, like I could. It just sort of unfolded in front of me, like I was watching a movie in my head, and
Yeah.
pretty sure there's no satanic aspect to that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yet there's nothing really new about the most powerful stories, which I believe is testimony to something supernatural. So that's kind of my
Mm-hmm.
setup to where I wanted to go with that. But if you wanted to take, 30 seconds or 45 seconds each to respond to that, by all means. So Rob, you first if you want.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't want to spoil too much of it.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, I think you and I are kind of be on the same page with this, and I'll be really excited to kind of to flesh this idea out more. Um, but yeah, there's what I always think about is there was a quote by Stephen R. Donaldson. I don't know, he was the guy that did the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever, um,
Oh,
which is really cool fantasy stories. But he remembers one of his, maybe it was his science fiction series he did called The Gap, which is a really good science fiction series, by the way, too. And he said the idea came to him. He was walking in a bathroom and he looked at there was a can of like air freshener, and then it's something started connecting in his head, and he came up with this story. And his quote that he had is that ideas or writers don't get ideas, ideas get writers.
hmm.
Hmm.
And as soon as I heard that, I mean, as a writer, I'm like, yeah, I mean that's true. It's not a process I can fabricate, or I mean, I can sometimes maybe put myself in a mode to think of a story,
Yeah.
but I mean, there's no decent story that I've ever had that I'd sat down and constructed it. Something happened to me, and
Right.
I'm kind of a passive participant in that. If that makes any sense, which sounds like it does to y'all.
Well, it does to me, but I know that Darby's going to tell us that we're both from Satan. Darby, you're up.
Well, you're both from Satan, and
There we go.
I'm kidding. I can't. I don't want to mystify where ideas come from because it's from everywhere. But I know for the Jake Muller adventures, um, you know, I had a picture of a person running across a lake in a blizzard, and I don't remember anymore where that image came from. But from that, I've fleshed out an audio drama that we've recorded 5 series of so far, and uh, by the way, won more awards this last weekend. Um,
Ah,
I had to rub that in.
Nice.
Not rub it in. But it's less impressive than it sounds. But you're talking about the supernatural, and we live in a supernatural world. I mean,
mm-hmm.
God is above nature. Uh, we can't understand it. We can't understand his ideas. I wish I understood his plan for me better than I do, but he's got ideas, and he gives us ideas, and puts people in our path that feed those ideas, um, and praise him for it, because you know what, I'm not that smart a fella, but people like some of the stories I tell, and I appreciate that too. but it's not it's not inspired like the Bible is inspired,
Right.
but we get our ideas from somewhere, and sometimes an idea. Seriously, the other day, I've been trying to suss out a story for a little while. Something just popped in my head, and I don't even know where it came from. And was it God telling me something, or was it subconscious? I don't know. But the idea came, and it helped solve a big story problem.
Mm-hmm.
So
nice.
Have I just ruined that episode? I don't know.
Maybe.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what Rob has to say, though. So I'll sit in for that.
Okay. All right. So we'll see how our schedules work for next week or the week after. Pulling this together. Two things. In the chat, OJ Wolf Smasher, whom I don't know. Do you guys know of OJ Wolf Smasher?
I don't. Not yet.
Yeah, he is a friend of mine from college. Actually, I'm not going to go too deep into that part, but he's a cool guy. But as he just said, for two straight podcasts in a row, he wanted to propose that our world is literally made out of story, which is provocative and interesting. So,
or billions of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So the last time that he brought that up, I didn't make mention of it, and I know he's gonna just bother me forever if I don't bring it out. And it does fit what we're talking about. And the other thing I'll mention is that the Thomas Covenant series that you mentioned there, Rob. Well, what's the actual name of it again?
The Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever.
Okay. One of my newest authors, in like 3 podcasts ago, just brought that up as one of his favorite childhood stories. So it's like everything's coming full circle in a bizarre kind of way. It's like I attract. It's like I'm a magnet of sorts of certain folks, and it's weird because they just fall into my lap, and it's just a major blessing. Not much of a curse that I can tell, but.
Are you saying that weird attracts weird? Is that what it is?
It could be. It could be. So, we're gonna close this up. Is there anything left unsaid? Anything that anyone?
I think there is one thing left unsaid, and that is we have not made any mention at all of what is arguably the greatest science fiction movie of all time. That being, of course, Back to the Future. So,
okay,
maybe it gets his own podcast.
All right. So is that sci-fi? Would you consider that sci-fi?
It's a time travel movie.
Yeah,
okay, what else would it be?
Sci-fi.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's a great
and a little interesting aside. If you ever want to, there's a Netflix series called The Movies That Made Us. I don't know if you ever had a chance to check that out, and it gives some of the background in the original script for Back to the Future. Marty McFly was going to go back in time in a refrigerator.
Right.
So it was a later addition to say, no, I don't think refrigerator is going to do it. Let's do a DeLorean instead. So
yeah. Right. How about you, Darby?
No, I appreciate you having me on for this. I'm such a nerd. I can talk about Star Wars and Star Trek and X-Files too.
Yeah.
If you could see my wall that I'm looking at, it's all Marvel graphic novels and Sherlock Holmes. So
nice.
It's such a challenge. There's so much to say, and as you guys are talking, I just want to and then the moments pass, and now I can't go back. And there's like 1,000 of those moments. Yeah. So thanks for coming on, guys. If you will just hold on for a minute, don't go anywhere. I'm gonna switch to my other screen and say goodbye to everyone, and then I'll come back and we'll just shoot the breeze for 2 minutes or so and say goodnight. So just give me a minute while I wrap up things here.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right.
Okay. Well, folks, I don't think we did end up coming up with the definitive answer there. but we said a lot of interesting things, and I think that was what you should have expected and what we delivered on. If you enjoyed this content, see, I hate even saying things like that. I mean, to me, these are just conversations. I'm just having conversations with friends, and I feel like a mercenary dirtbag if I say like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I mean, God, I feel like such a loser. And yet, this podcast cannot succeed if nice content tonight, hot mess. Is that what you said? Holmes. Sorry, there was a line break. I'm getting from the whatever. Anyway, you chose to spend your time with me, and I appreciate that. And it's probably always going to be like this. It's not going to be really polished. It's just going to be conversations between friends about things that people don't really talk about a lot that I see. You can go on right now and watch, any number of political broadcasts anywhere you want. And I'm as political as anyone. But, sometimes I want to do other things. And, um, the media sphere does not seem built for those things. So the point is, if you want to see this develop, you're just going to have to do that whole like, subscribe, notify, and share and spread the word and stuff like that. So thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Gutenbookpress.com is the website. We're on YouTube, simultaneously broadcast on Rumble today. So there's lots of ways, and we'll just continue expanding. And I thank you for your time. So without further ado, we've gone well over time. Let's find my exit screen. I'll find it here. Maybe if I make the screen looks bigger. Yeah. Highly professional thing going on here. Adios. Have a good night. Auf Wiedersehen.